People were free to come here looking for a fortune, but the, we'll say, application of the law might have been a bit lax. There was a sense of an open port where anything could happen.
According to accounts of the time, there were robberies and stabbings every day. There was a tiny police force, but the policemen were often the first to be murdered.
When Raffles returns in 1822, he's just aghast. It hasn't quite got the feel of this English colonial trade port that he had imagined. And he basically fires Farquhar.
I can't believe what you've done! What kind of place are you running here? Slaves, cockfighting, opium dens?
Raffles blamed Farquhar for allowing the settlement to lose its way.
I don't care how they live. We have a responsibility.
He expected higher standards for his little child.
And you're not setting a very good example.
Raffles perceived it as being chaotic. He wants it to create ideas of science and the arts and literature that were being promoted by the Enlightenment in the late 18th century.
The Enlightenment in Europe was an age of reason, order, and progress. And Raffles hoped to bring these lofty ideals to Singapore. While the town was still in its infancy, he drew up an elaborate blueprint for its future, laying out a modern grid structure of roads, dividing up the population into different ethnic areas. Everything was designed to be as rational and efficient as possible.
He left specific instructions for the style of architecture. The famous Singapore 5-foot way, which was a sort of continuous arcade on either side of the street, which would protect you from the sun and also from the rain. And the facades of the building were to have a uniform appearance. So he thought about all these little details.
In Raffles' vision, the river would be the central artery of the town, along which trade could flow. He created a wharf, Boat Quay, to be a focal point for mercantile establishments. Today, the Singapore River is quiet, to be enjoyed by pleasure boats. But throughout the 19th century, cargo from around the world traveled along the river and filled the warehouses of Boat Quay, just as Raffles had predicted.
The smell, the sounds, the atmosphere, the environment would have been very different. Moored alongside the banks would have been tongkangs, sampans, lightermen, and they would have blocked up this entire river with barely enough room for any big craft to move in. And people would be moving sacks of rice, of goods from the warehouses, from the go-downs, and that would have been a scene that you would have seen in the late 19th century, early 20th century Singapore. This was the place where commerce started in Singapore. This was the cradle of commerce.
Today, the warehouses of Boat Quay have been closed down and relocated to the modern port. But Raffles' other creation is very much alive. Behind the quayside, he designated a swampy, uninhabited area to become the commercial center of town. The skyscrapers of the modern business district sit on exactly the same spot today. Raffles believed that free trade had a magical quality that could transform Singapore, and this skyline is testament to that belief. The central square in the business district still has the same shape and dimensions as when it was first designed. Only now it is known as Raffles Place, in honor of its founder.
Shortly before he left Singapore for the last time, he wrote to a correspondent in England, and he said something like, I've had to mold everything from first to last to introduce a system of energy, purity, and encouragement that will last for a century or two. That's Raffles thinking 200 years ahead.